Hi, I'm Isabel and I am an artist. Today I wanted to show you how to charcoal draw a flower. So this is the flower that we're going to do today. This is a zinnia one I took this picture in our garden. So the first thing I do when I want to start a charcoal drawing is I edit my picture. Now you don't have to do this, but I find this easier to help train your eye, especially on more complicated images, is you go to the filters here and you pick one of these darker, all black and white colored ones. So it depends on what your image is, which one will look best. I think this one's looking best. We can see the most contrast between the center of the flower, the petals, the background, and the stem, and that's what we want to focus on. So this filter is going to make it easier for us to spot the areas to charcoal. I'll explain how in just a minute. This is going to be our reference. I don't think you'll be able to see all of it, but enough of it that it should be all right. The first thing we're going to start with is covering our paper with charcoal. So I have some old charcoal here that I just collected in a little Tupperware. And you can do this part with your hands, or I'm using a paintbrush because I think it's fun. You just rub it all over your paper. This is going to take us a minute, but it's really kind of fun. Charcoal is very messy, but it's very free. You don't have to worry about getting it perfect. You it's really forgiving. You can, if you mess up, you just come in and cover it up again. Sometimes I think with acrylic paint, you feel like it's a waste of paint, or with oil paint, it definitely feels like a waste if you mess up and feel like you have to come in and cover it up. But with charcoal, it's a lot cheaper of a medium to work with, and it's really forgiving. I mean, this is all just vine charcoal. That all this powder that I'm putting up is actually extras falling down here. So I just collected it and I'm reusing it. So I can get a lot of drawings out of just a few pieces of charcoal, which is totally awesome. So I love charcoal. It is the medium that I feel the most confident in. And it's honestly not even the one I've been doing the longest. Watercolor is the medium I have done the longest, but it's one of my I don't know what the best word is. It's one of the mediums that I struggle with the most, even though I've been doing it for the longest. Charcoal, I learned how to charcoal just over a year ago. I got to take an elective in undergrad and I chose drawing one. And my professor was so sweet. She walked us through how to draw the things, and you had tons of people in there, from artists, people who are artists, to people just trying to get a class done, people who had never picked up a paintbrush before in their life, to people who spent every free minute with a paintbrush. And she taught us how to do this, and I loved it. I loved it so much, and I have not stopped drawing with charcoal since. So the background here is almost covered. The reason why we cover this is because it gives us a great surface to work on. You'll see in just a minute. A lot of charcoal work is pushing and pulling. You're putting charcoal on, you're taking charcoal off. And I'll show you here, but we're going to look at our reference in a certain way that'll help us too. And it'll explain why we made it all black and white. Okay. There, that's going to be good enough. All right, let's look back at our reference here. Now, we made it black and white because charcoal is only, oh, sorry, there you go. Now there's not a reflection on it. Charcoal is only gray. You have really, really dark gray, almost black. You have really, really light areas. Like, you can look at our paper here. We've got a darker area. We've got some midtones, a little lighter streaks. So we're not worried about color. Color can sometimes be extremely distracting whenever you're drawing something, because color doesn't constitute shape. You don't draw color, you paint the color, or you color in the colored areas. That's why we've made it black and white. So the color's not going to be distracting to us. Now, there's kind of 3 steps to a charcoal drawing that I do anyways. Different people have different techniques, but I start with a charcoal covered background. And you can use a paintbrush, you can use your hands, you can actually take your vine charcoal and scribble everywhere and then rub it in. However you prefer to do it. It does get messy. It will wash off. It's not going to stain your clothes. I actually don't mind getting messy, but I love gardening and I love getting dirt on my hands, and charcoal's a similar feel for me. So, we are going to start with step 1 of a charcoal drawing. We've got our reference right here. We are going to just block in the very basic shape. So I've got a kneaded eraser, and the nice thing with these is you can shape them any way you want. So you can make it a point like a pencil, or you can do it like a smudge here. So I would encourage, if this is the first time you're ever doing a charcoal, just play around with your eraser for a little while. See what kind of marks you can get, see how light it is, how faded, what kind of textures you can get to show up from your brush. And then just cover it up again and we'll start on the flower drawing. This is how it's so forgiving. You see how easy that was to cover up? It's so simple. So it's really forgiving. It's not something you have to stress about. And if you don't like how it looks, it was just a few dollars. It's not hundreds of dollars like oil painting. It's actually a lot cheaper. Okay, so we're going to look at the basic shape. We are just going to do this flower and the stem. Going to keep it super simple. So we're going to look at the shape of it. It's not quite a circle, but it's very ovalish in shape. So I think I'm going to start just in the middle of my paper. I'm going to kind of do a loose oval. One of the hardest parts about drawing, charcoal drawing, painting, whatever, is looking at your source. And you might think, oh, that's the easy part, right? That's the part that should be super simple. Everybody can look. The trouble is, we're looking in different ways. So whenever an artist is looking at a piece, they're looking for which way does that shape curve? Does it curve to the right, to the left? How much of a curve is it? Is it overlapped? Is it underlapped? And you just try to get in the basic shape that you see. Now, here's another thing I want to tell you, okay? Your drawing is not supposed to look like your reference. That's what the photo's for. If you were trying to get your drawing to look like the photo, why are you even trying? That's what cameras were made for. Art is supposed to be imperfect, and that's actually the beauty of it. So don't stress about getting it perfect like your reference image. If you're using my flower or a different flower, just try to get the loose shapes in. You can exaggerate some of them if you want, actually, but now I'm just going in and I'm trying to get the real loose shape of some of these petals. We're just super vague. This is like the ghost stage, is what my professor told us. This is the ghost stage of charcoal drawing. You're just getting the really loose shapes that you can work with in more detail later. And honestly, if this goes way too long, we may have to do another video to finish this up. But I really wanted to show you that you can make really cool, beautiful drawings without breaking the bank and without having to spend years in art school. You can make a beautiful flower. Just focus on the shape. And what I mean by that is, don't think, oh, that's a circle, and go draw a circle. Ignore the shapes you learned in primary school, in kindergarten, and all of that. Just try to mentally trace your shape and try to replicate it. I don't know if that makes sense. Sometimes it's hard to explain, but sometimes if you get caught up on, oh, that's supposed to be a circle, you forget to notice, like, oh, it's actually flatter on the top of this petal right here. It's not a perfect circle. If I drew a circle right there, it would not actually represent that shape because it's flatter on top. It's a little pudgier at the top of the curve, it narrows down a little bit closer to that. So that's, again, ghost stage. So it's not in the detail phase. Don't expect it to be looking like a petal yet, but try not to get caught up on the shape name. Just try to notice it. Notice where it curves. Notice where the flower naturally has imperfections in it. I don't know if you've thought about this, but there's nothing in nature that is perfectly symmetrical. There's no flower that actually has identical petals all the way around. If you look and see, I can't even draw one that way. So that one's crooked, that one's fatter, that one's fatter, that one's really skinny. Flowers are imperfect and it's beautiful. You don't look at a flower in nature and say, oh my goodness, that one petal is really crooked and it's just ugly because of that. But sometimes we look at our drawings and we think that because not all of our petals match, or not all of our shape is perfect, like, or quote unquote perfect, not all of it looks like our reference image, that it's not actually good. But there's nothing in nature that's just absolutely perfect. And so our art, whenever we're drawing nature, it doesn't need to be perfect either. When it's imperfect, it actually looks more natural. Okay, we have real loose basic shape in. I'm going to work on the stem real fast. We're just going to see it's wider at the top and it goes to narrow, so we're going to do that. We're about to get to the focus on the dark colored areas. That's the kind of the fun part. Okay, this is the ghost phase. We have a flower. You can tell a little bit it's a flower, but it's obviously quite unfinished. So now we get to pull out our vine charcoal, and I really like vine charcoal. There are rectangle charcoals. I think I have one here I can show you if I can find it. There are, here we go. There's, I'm dropping stuff. There are charcoals. Oh, sorry. Let me actually show you. There you go. Okay, there's charcoals like this, and you could use this too, but I don't love this. I prefer the more pencil-ish one. This feels a little more free. This one's really dense and kind of hard, sharp edges. This one's lighter. Feels kind of like a twig, honestly. But I like this one. You could use this one if you want, but it might be a little different. Just try to grab charcoal that is soft charcoal. So they're soft, medium, and hard. And it's actually different amounts of charcoal come off when you use it, and different amounts of dark and light. I like the soft one. I think the soft one's messier, but I really like it, so that's what I use. So we're going to come in and we're going to focus on the dark areas. And I first want to get in this part of the, I'm blanking on what this is, part where the pollen is. We're going to just focus on the dark areas. It helps if you squint your eyes a little bit. You can see the dark shapes without all the details. As like I said, this is not going to be as detailed as the photo because this is not a photo. This is a drawing. And the imperfections actually show that it was made by human hands. Okay, so we've got a vague shape in the middle there. That'll work. We're going to put our little flowers on top later. Now, there's dark edges here, all in this. So if you look at it, you squint your eyes at our picture, the top part of the stem and almost all of the stem is really dark, one of the darkest parts, second to this pollen area. Okay, then we've got a few dark in between the petals, but honestly, our petals are a lighter shade of gray. They're not white like the center flowers. The center flowers are white and the petals are grayish. So we're going to have to change our ghost to match that. So we're going to go really dark for our stem. I'm doing that first because it's easier to work farther away to front. If I started with a petal and then I had to come to the stem underneath, I might mess up the petal that I worked so hard on. This way, I get the stem done and I'm out of the petal's way. Okay. Now, I actually like leaving some of that ghost part peeking through. It looks kind of like there's light coming through. It gives a little bit of texture to our drawing. So don't make it perfect. This is a drawing. It is supposed to represent a flower. It is not a flower. Okay, now we're starting with petals. Just pick a petal. I know it looks overwhelming. There's a lot of petals, a lot of detail. You don't have to get it all in, okay? Just start with one dark area and move to the next petal as you go. And if you're missing petals that are represented in the picture and not on your drawing, that's okay. When someone sees your drawing, they're not going to be comparing it to the reference picture. That's not the purpose of art. Okay, so I'm just coming in and I'm going to try to shape this petal how I see the dark areas. Now remember, we're not going with a shape right now. We're just looking at where is it darker and where is it lighter. Okay, I know this is difficult, but it gets easier with practice. Just like everything else in life, it gets a little easier with practice. I know there's that saying, practice makes perfect, but my mom has actually pointed out that that's not true. Practice makes better. And that's what will happen if you spend time working on your charcoal drawings, is you will find you get better. Not perfect, better. Okay, on the edges of your petals, don't forget to leave them a little organic. Let them be a little wobbly. Right here, I don't know if you can see this side. No, you can't. All right, I'll scoot it over. Right here, this petal has some weird jaggedy parts. Keep stuff like that. That gives character to your drawing. It actually shows that you noticed what the real flower actually looked like, which is quite hard to do, you know. It's quite unnatural, I would say, for us to look at a flower and notice all of the intricate details. But when we do, we find a lot of little hidden surprises in there. A lot of fun shapes and lines, things we didn't expect. And this is what I love about flowers, is they're so unique. It's like fingerprints. You never see the same flower twice. They're all different. Okay, do you see how we're coming? It's looking a little bit more like a flower. Okay, I hope so. We're gonna keep working on it. Right now I'm just putting in the dark areas and I'm outlining a little bit because it's too close to the outside, but you can come in and soften those edges where it's not actually super dark. Okay, I'm just going to do that for a minute because I want to really exaggerate to you the dark areas, because that is what makes a good charcoal drawing, is the more contrast you have. It actually looks better because the whole drawing is made up of contrast, actually. With charcoal, you typically don't have any color. It's really hard to paint over charcoal. You would have to completely seal it, so spray it, and then the best way I know how to do it is you spray it really good with some fixative sealant spray, and then you cover it with a gloss gel, but then it kind of smears your drawings. So I don't recommend that. I love it more natural without any trying to seal it, because it messes up that raw, natural feel that the charcoal gives. Okay, we're just working along. It's kind of hard to talk and do this, but I'm doing my best. My goal is to show you that you can draw a flower. That's what charcoal showed me. I've never been somebody who thought of myself as like, oh yeah, I can draw, I'm good at that. No, I've always been the person who sets out to do a drawing, starts it and quits because it looks horrible, can't do it, it's not how I wanted it, so just give up, right? But when I took this drawing class, I was really nervous because of that. I was like, I'm not an artist. That's what I thought. And a year later, I decided to become one, but irony is funny, you know. In my drawing class, it was whenever we got to the charcoal part that I was like, oh, look at that. I can actually draw. And it felt like it opened a whole new world for me of possibilities of like, oh, maybe I could be an artist. So I just want you to see that charcoal is actually a medium that can help you a lot if you feel like you can't draw. Okay, we have a darker spot over here, just putting that in. Really trying to focus on the dark areas. We're going to come in and do some mid-tone areas and some light areas. Right over here, we're actually supposed to have some dark areas. All right. I know this is taking a while, but art takes a minute. There's a reason why art is expensive to buy. It's not just time, though it does take a lot of time for good art to be made. You can use your charcoal to kind of color in areas that you want to make a little bit shadowed. Right here, I want to make a shadow around this petal that we've got going on here. It's one of the difficult things is actually keeping your eye on the right area. It's really easy to have your mind switch around and you're like, oh, I was on that flower, but then your brain jumps over to that flower and forgets which one you were working on when looking at your reference. So it's not going to be exactly like your reference. I definitely don't have the exact same petal structure here as in the reference, but that's okay. The reference is supposed to get you started and be a guide and help you see where it's lighter and darker. And that's it. Like I said earlier, if you wanted your art to look like the photo, you need to become a photographer and not an artist. Okay, we've got most of our darker pieces in. We need a few shadows over here. And remember, just squint your eyes if you're having a hard time seeing where is it darker. And some of it goes by feeling, you know, like I feel like this area should be darker. So I'm going to do it. It's your drawing. You can't really mess it up. It's not like you're going to get graded on this. You're not in a drawing class in college like I was, getting graded on it. You're just doing this for fun. So, there's no right or wrong. Okay, I think we're gonna call it good. If I was doing this not for a tutorial, I would probably spend a lot more time on this, but for sake of time, I'm gonna move on. So I'm gonna darken up a few petals here that need to be grayer. But we are about to start using our eraser again. That's the thing with charcoal, or one of the things. I'm sure I've said that already multiple times in this video, but one of the things with charcoal is your eraser is actually like a paintbrush. You are going to use it like an art tool. So if you're using a kneaded eraser, which I recommend because these don't leave little pieces of eraser on your paper. Like think back to school whenever you're doing your math problems and you got it wrong and you erase it. And there's all these little gray eraser pieces on your paper that you had to shake off or blow off. A kneaded eraser doesn't have that. So we have charcoal dust that's going to move around, but we won't be touching it to move off any eraser plastic pieces. Charcoal is very sensitive, so if you touch it with your hand, it's going to change. Your hand just, it's very sensitive. So even if I just touch it with my brush over here, it changed that area of the charcoal because it's so loose. It's really just sitting on the paper. So you want a good eraser, like a kneaded eraser, so you can erase areas lighter without fear of eraser marks ruining your paper. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're looking for the lightest areas on each petal. So on this one, I added some dark spot in the middle because there's some dark spot in the middle. And I see it's kind of framed by some light, and there's light down this way. There's a tiny bit of light at the top, and there's some dark there. So I'm just going to try to make what I'm seeing show up on my paper, but it's tough. So you may go back and forth. You may go, well, I erased a little too much. Let me put that darker area back right there and right there. And I want a few lines at the bottom. Okay, you may do that. And find it easier whenever you are pushing and pulling. That's actually how this is supposed to work. So look for the lightest areas. Sometimes it's the edges closer to you that are lighter. So like this leaf, and this petal, sorry. I'm giving light on this side, and I'm letting it be just a tad darker towards the back to show that it's going distance. This does take patience, but it helps when you get into it. I find it easier to kind of do it all in one sitting if you can. Sometimes leaving it and coming back to it later, you kind of forget, well, which flower was I on? Which parts did I like? And you kind of lose your excitement about it. I don't know if you're like that or not. But if I go a long time between working on a project, there's times when it's fine, and other times it really hurts my inspiration. I lose my inspiration and motivation on the piece, and I really feel like it's a chore to get back to it. Okay, keep moving your eraser around. You may have to reshape it like this. This is not going to hurt it. This is actually just making sure that you have clean parts of the eraser, because the charcoal kind of clings to your eraser. So remember, you can make sharp areas if you want to get just a little bit lighter. But we're just looking at where is it lighter compared to darker. And like mine, right here, my petals are different than in the reference, okay? So I don't have exactly the same petals to look at, but I can look at the ones similar, most similar to the petals I have to see where is it lighter and darker on those. Like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of good art is when you leave enough vague for the brain to fill in the rest. Our brains actually love challenges like that, of getting to fill in the details. That's one of the things that I think Bob Ross did amazingly well, is well, besides he was just a crazy talented artist, but he, in his paintings, if you look at them very closely, they're quite simple, but he mastered the skill of providing enough detail for the brain to work with and leaving enough that the brain filled in the rest. So next time you see Bob Ross, stop and look and see how his paintings are actually simple. He uses great techniques, but he has mastered letting your brain do some of the work. And I know we always talk about our brains are lazy, and they're definitely getting lazier with AI and all this stuff. but our brains do like to solve puzzles sometimes. Okay, we are getting about as far as we can in the short of time we have. Again, if I was doing this just for me, I would spend a lot more time on this. I would even take a day in between doing one stage and the next. So the stage we're on right now is the middle stage. Well, this is kind of the finalizing stage, I guess. I forgot to specify the second stage. Whenever we started putting in our darks, we kind of went to the second stage where we got a little bit more detailed, really worked on the light and the dark, focused on the shadows. And now putting in the light areas, we're kind of fine-tuning our shapes. Any super awkward looking petals, you can just change the shape of them. It's super easy with charcoal to totally erase a petal or put in a whole new petal somewhere you want. It's not, you don't have to be scared of it. But yeah, so this is kind of the second stage that we've been working on. The third stage is the final touch details. So I'm going to show you that real fast. This is a charcoal pencil, the soft kind I especially like. This will help get a little bit more detailed marks. So I'm going to put in some little lines on a few of my petals. Some areas that need to be especially dark and kind of lost the darkness. You can come in and make it darker. This is a little bit firmer of a charcoal, and you can actually press it a lot firmer. You see how I can actually sharpen up my lines here with this one, and so it kind of makes it look a little bit more finished when you have some sharper lines along with your looser charcoal vine lines. Okay. You can do this with any flower. This flower that I picked to do today is actually a more difficult flower to do. I would suggest a daisy or a rose. I have up here, let's see if I can show you. On my wall, I have a charcoal rose drawing up there that was a lot simpler than this. This one's a little bit more in depth here, but you can pick any flower. I recommend making your image black and white and then focus on the light and dark areas. Doesn't matter the shape, just worry about where is it dark, where is it light. You can actually apply this technique to any kind of thing you want to draw or paint. I have done it for animals. I'm even working on one of a person using charcoal, doing this technique, starting with the ghost, then moving to putting in our dark areas, and then putting in our light areas, and then finishing up with a pencil. You can also get a white charcoal pencil and really put in some highlights. I suppose we can do that real fast to give it a really finalized look. I actually have not gotten to play with these yet, so this is kind of fun. If I can just get into it. Okay, we're just going to see. Oh yeah, that looks awesome. So you can really put in some highlights with this white charcoal pencil and help it look more finalized. I think we might use this for our flowers, our little flower tips here in the middle. So we don't think about how much light and dark affects what we see, but it affects so much. And charcoal really helps train your mind to look for the light and dark areas. It has helped me so much in my paintings, just knowing I need to be mindful of where is it darkest and where is it lightest. Because a lot of times, you sit down to paint, like this flower looks like this. But when you sit down to paint this, your eyes go straight, ooh, let me find that pink, let me mix it right, and then there's yellow, and that's fine, but you're going to lose all of this depth that we just created only in black and white because we focused on the light and dark areas. So charcoal may not be your medium of choice. You may not consider yourself an artist at all, but I would recommend you try charcoal because it will be fun for one, especially if you can let go of perfectionism with it. And you can practice and looking at subjects like an artist. All right, let's see about these middle pieces. I'm not super sure about them. They're tiny, and this is harder to do tiny things on a small piece of paper. It's a lot easier to do bigger artwork than smaller artwork typically whenever you want details, because you can only make the tip of your charcoal so small. You can't really make it much smaller. It's not like a fine liner pen. So I'm just using the white charcoal and putting in some of these kind of wherever I feel like. I'm loosely looking at where they are in the reference, but the higher up I go, the more they're going to kind of disappear against my petal colors. So I'm just kind of putting them where I want to right now. This is my flower, so I can do it how I want, just like you can do your flower how you want. Okay. There's a few, I don't know if you can see these weird little curls here that I'm just going to try to put in a little bit of texture here with my white charcoal. Real light, so it's not as bright white as the center of my shape here. But we are about to call it done. I would really love to hear how this goes. If you try it out, if you've ever used charcoal before, let me know what you thought. I would love to hear from you. And if you want more tutorials, please subscribe. Let me know in the comments. I am very new to all of this, so I would love suggestions. And let me know if you want this flower listed available as a print online. All right, that is it. That is how I would suggest you draw a flower in charcoal. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good day. Bye.